I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is the All Rise After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. We're talking Season 1, Episode 17. It feels like we've been gone for like months.
Yeah.
That's it. It was only like a 2-week break before, since our last episode, I guess, and now we're back, and it's like I feel like I've been gone for months. But how are you guys feeling?
I know. It's like, okay, what do I do with my Monday night?
Exactly. Well, welcome in. If this is your first time watching, then let me introduce myself. My name is Alexis, and I will be hosting along with these lovely ladies next to me. We have Zuri, who's bringing up all the news and gossip.
Yes, I do have juicy news and gossip per usual.
Yes, and we have Princess, who is giving us our dumb criminals.
Hey, yes, tonight's is especially interesting. Can't wait to get into it.
Yes, we got a lot to talk about with that and just with our episode in general, so let's just get right on into it. First off, I just want to say we have known that Luke is such a patient man. Such a patient man. And he continues to show that because in the last episode, he told Emily that he loved her, and then she's just been avoiding him. And then even after him avoiding him, he brings her pizza, and they're all kikiing it up. And then she says that she thinks she loves him, but everything is still all okay. So what do we think about the fact that Luke is basically just letting Emily just play around with his heart and do whatever?
I don't really know what to think about this because it makes me wonder, like, where does Luke stand with himself? Like, where are his boundaries? Because I feel like some of her behavior is unacceptable. And though you've been through a lot, I don't know that it excuses like bad behavior.
Right.
So it's making me wonder what's happening with Luke.
Yeah, I think this is why it's so important to be healed and to get healed fully between relationships, because she's carrying a lot of baggage into this, and it's not Luke's fault. And I appreciate the fact that he's been so gracious, despite the fact that he didn't claim her that one time. But we won't get into that. I love you just covers it all, apparently.
No, let's get into that because that's real. It's like they never really addressed why he didn't claim you. They never really had a conversation about that. So it makes me wonder, they're telling each other they love each other, but are they even together at this point? Like, do we even know?
It's hard to tell because she's so fickle, and then he's trying to be there. And in some ways, I kind of, even though they were definitely a couple at that point, I kind of get where he's coming from, because either you're in it or you're not. And she doesn't have to say that she loves him. She may not love him just yet.
Well, she said she thinks.
Or just own up to it. Like, you know what? It's going to take me some time. I'm not there yet. And she has that right. But just state your truth and own it. My gosh.
Yeah. I agree with that because when she said, I love you, I was thinking, I think I would rather you just not tell me than to be like, I think I love you.
Well, like, what is that?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do with that?
What am I supposed to do with this
like,
information?
what would y'all do if you told a guy you loved him and then he comes back like, well, I think I love you too?
I think you should go talk to somebody else.
I know that's
very
right.
much unacceptable.
Yes. Sarah had brought up to Emily, we're going to talk a little bit more about Emily's case, but it surrounds PTSD, and she was saying that maybe, Luke telling her he loved her could have caused some sort of PTSD with her. Do y'all agree with that? Why do you think she said that?
Yes, I've been saying since way back when, earlier in the season, back in 2019, she needs to get counseling and work through these things. Go get some help. What I thought was going to happen after that comment was that she was actually going to look into therapy for herself. That's how I expected things to go, but instead it did not just yet. But that's what I was hoping, and that's what I still hope for the future for Emily, that she goes and addresses all these things. She went through something traumatic. Her ex-husband was abusive. That's not something you just let go of or get over, as we learn in the case today. So, I don't know.
I agree. I think, they say life is your best teacher. So I think I wrote in my notes, Coach Emily, like when she was talking to him at that moment, like, you need to face your fears. You've been running from this. I'm like, it seems like Emily's finding therapy through her clients, which I don't agree is a good thing. But it just seems like that's something that they're making her storyline. Like every client she either connects to or she like sees a part of herself in. So I agree. Like I think Sarah saying that is definitely like life being a teacher, but I agree. I think if this show is gonna, die on the hill of bringing light to issues, like I think that we should watch Emily go through therapy.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. Continuing on with Emily, somebody named Barry, who they've never talked about on this show before, retires and it like turns into this catastrophe and she ends up having to have all his cases. There was one case where they went in there and they all just sit in a circle and the girl was like, I just went through my program, and the judge was hugging her and we were all like, this is really weird, and then they just never talked about it again. What did y'all think of that? What was the point of that?
Of a scene. I was like, we didn't go back into that story. Maybe to set up for the future. I'm so confused. I felt like we wasted, what was it, 2 minutes? Is that how long that scene was? It served absolutely no purpose to me.
I was wondering, I was like, is this going to be like a molestation? Like, like what is she, her like caregiver secretly? I didn't know what to think. I was literally watching like, okay, where are we going? Like anticipating every cut to cut back to that, and it never did.
I literally went from, oh, that's going to be the case she's going to do for this week, but then she started on the next case. So I was like, oh, maybe it's going to tie in somewhere, and then once they finished that, I was like, oh, I guess it's not going to tie in, and then the episode ended and I was like, well, they didn't even talk about it.
I mean, I guess it was the setup for the theme for tonight's episode, which is mental health, but they could have done without it. They could have achieved the entire episode, everything else, without that scene. So
it just seems like they just, like, maybe they cut a clip from next week and accidentally put it in this one. Like, it just felt so random that they had this case come up and then we never found out what the case was. We had all these questions. Why is the judge hugging her? Why are they sitting in a circle? What kind of program is she in? We didn't get answers for any of that. And it was like, what did they do this to us for?
Maybe it gave Emily the idea to even think about the mental health aspect when talking to him. But if that was the case, then maybe they should have made that clearer.
I had the same feelings for Teflon Mitch's case. Like, I feel like they cut to, like, what I guess would have been the middle of the conversation, but I'm like, okay, but okay, you were a banana and they're saying that you killed someone. Like, what exactly am I watching? So yeah, I had the same response, I guess, twice this episode of like, what is happening?
Just all over the place. Why? What is this? What is going on? But one case that we did actually see all the way through was with Emily. She ended up taking on a client named Tommy Farrell, who hit somebody up the side of the head with a bottle of bourbon, but he survived, thank God. And it comes out pretty quickly. What's funny is that all of these are cases that have already been ongoing, and as soon as Emily got it, it was like, I figured it out. You have PTSD. I've solved the case. So he had PTSD, and, they tried to make it so that that could be why maybe he did what he did. He can get some jail time off. And surprisingly, Lola said that she wasn't going to let that be it, that he was still going to have to do some time in jail. Were you guys surprised by her doing that?
I wasn't, and I'm actually on board with the decision that she made, because there was a situation when I was in elementary school where this person was quite violent, but it's just the way that it was explained to us, and it may not have been policy, but the way that it was explained to us is that, oh, this person has mental health issues, and as long as they don't do anything to the teacher, then we have to just let things slide. And as the people that were affected by his behavior, even if it was as simple as disrupting class, we were still cheated out of something, even if he wasn't violent, even if it was just disruption. So I agree with Lola that she still had a duty to the guy who got hit, but at the same time, this man does need help. So acknowledging both sides of the argument, I really appreciated that.
I think this is the closest that we've gotten to Lola not being too sensitive. Like, I think we've been rooting for that all season. I think this is the first time that she gave like some sort of punishment to the person that needed the most compassion, I guess, in this case.
Yeah. Speaking of Judge Carmichael, she had a conversation, which we'll go a little bit more into later on, but really quickly, Judge Benner kind of threw in her face the fact that she had like let somebody off and then he went and killed somebody, and it really shook Lola, rightfully so. So do you think her hearing that comment maybe changed her mind about the verdict that she gave?
I think that's a really good question. I feel like life is your best teacher, so I feel like it really could have been like, her having to reflect, even that conversation with Sherry, her saying, I have a duty to the person who he hurt. So I would say yes. I would say it was like a learning. She used that as a learning moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, part of me just got so caught up and so caught off guard at the fact that she brought that up, and it was just so rude. But yeah, I agree. I do think that stung her, but she needed to be stung and needed to be woken up to the fact that you still have to be responsible and still mindful of the other people that are affected by people's behavior.
Okay, all good points. Before we continue on, though, Zuri, do you have a message for our viewers?
I do. Hey, guys, I just wanted to say thank you all for making us the ESPN of TV talk. Thank you guys for watching with us every single Monday night. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up and leave some comments in the comment section. If you're listening to us on iTunes, be sure to give us 5 stars. I know Lexi and Princess are doing great things outside of AfterBuzz, so be sure to follow them for all things TV.
Yes. And if you are watching with us live, hello. In the live chat, I see some of y'all talking. We got ER's grandpa, hello. We have Logan Knight. Logan said that, where did it go? He said, I disagree with the decision since Tommy was in the military and had PTSD, so he didn't deserve jail time since he's going to be attending therapy, which is going to help. So I don't know. But thank you guys for weighing in. Continue to talk to us. Let us know what you think as we are talking about the show. Let's continue talking about Lola and Judge Benner. So a couple weeks ago, Judge Benner asked Lola to look into her. Why she had Lola do that, I still don't know. And it comes out that she worked for a company that withheld important information that would have helped numerous of their workers. Initially, Judge Benner tells Lola that she didn't know what was going on. And then she retracts that later and says that she actually did know what was going on the whole time, and then she felt guilty and actually leaked the memo, but she did it a year later. Why do y'all think she lied initially? And do you think, her rationale was not like a good thing because she waited a whole year, but at the same time, is it still admirable that she did something anyway? Because she didn't have to leak the memo. So
I think that Judge Benner lied the first time to see if she could get over on Lola, that she can get over on everyone else. And I think she kind of hinted that later on. I was expecting you to pardon me. So I think she was testing Lola if she was going to overlook the situation. I do think that, I don't know that I would call it admirable that she eventually shared the information, but I do think that if you have a mistake and you have an opportunity to fix it, you should definitely, go the furthest you can. But I don't think that I would call it admirable.
Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate the fact that she thought about her actions and she decided to do the as close to moral thing that you could possibly do in that situation. I don't know if admirable is the right word either. I think the admirable thing would have been if this had come up during the case earlier on when it was more appropriate. But it's tough because in a way it just feels like her whole career is built on an immoral decision, or unethical
also on
decision.
Personal gain.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then for her to send Lola out on this journey to dig this up and then hope that Lola wouldn't be able to put the pieces together, I find a little insulting. Yeah. So I said this earlier or during the 60-second reaction that I'm just really confused at what she really wanted out of this. Like, does she really think that Lola was going to pardon her, or does she really just want someone to confirm that she's a bad person and shouldn't run for Attorney General? I'm just really confused at all of this.
Yeah.
Also, I was listening to this podcast, and it was talking about white people during the slavery times, and they were saying how they wish things didn't happen, but they weren't saying that they felt bad for the people that it happened to. So it was like they wanted white guilt to be absolved, and I think that's very applicable to Judge Benner. It isn't so much that she cared about the people who got harmed in this case, it was that she wanted her personal conscience clear.
Yeah.
So I do not think it's admirable.
I totally agree with you. I think that was kind of my stance on it. Is I guess it was the right thing technically because it helped later, but the intentions behind doing it, I don't think were good intentions. I think, like you said, she was trying to ease her own guilt and shame and the feeling of, you know, like she did something wrong versus I care about what happened to these people and I want to do the right thing for them. So when it does have bad intentions behind it, do you think that takes away what she has done?
Yeah, I do. Personally, I'm not sure how you feel.
I mean, I'm glad that the company folded. I think Lola said it in the episode. It's a little too late. But again, it just makes me question what other questionable decisions has she made early on in her career. And then I go back to some of the other judges' comments about her, how she can't be trusted. And then, like I said, the fact that she wanted to try and pretend that she didn't know and that Lola couldn't put these pieces together. I can't trust her. She's a morally questionable character now.
Yeah. ER's grandpa said Benner is not, in all caps, to be trusted. Fang, scales, and venom.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm still confused on why she had Lola do it. Like, like you said, did she think Lola wasn't going to piece two and two together? She should know Lola better than that by now. She's super smart. Or did she think that Lola was going to be like, yeah, I know, but I don't care. You're Judge Benner. I love you.
I think she said it. I think she said that she expected her to look past it, and she knew that Lola was smart enough to put it together. So I feel like she almost, in a weird way, knows that Lola's like the smartest person in her circle and was looking for Lola. If she did pardon it, know that she could get over whoever else this had to go through.
Yeah.
Here's what also could have happened that would have saved a lot of time, energy, and possibly money. She could have just told her what had happened at the very beginning of all of this and said, what do you think of this situation? This is my side of the story. This is what happened. This is what happened to these victims. We could have avoided this investigation, saved Lola's time, and she could have just told her from the very beginning what had happened.
Yeah.
And that would have made Judge Benner look better, A, and B, we could have avoided all of this. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and also if you're an attorney general, I'm sure you have a team. You don't have anybody on your team who could have done all that digging for you that you didn't have to ask your judge to
Her
do that for you.
HU.
I mean, she didn't have to do any digging at all. She knew it was there. She just needed to test it on somebody. She could have just tested her by taking her out to coffee and telling her what happened.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Do you think that she should have just stayed out altogether? Because that's what Mark has been telling her since he found out that she was doing this. Like, just leave it alone. Stay out of it. Do you think that Lola should have just from the get-go been like, no, I can't do this for you. Sorry.
This is below my pay grade.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she didn't know what she would find, but it's unfortunate because now she knows about a crime. And now can she be held responsible now that she has this information? So maybe at the very beginning when something smelled fishy, she should have walked away, like Mark said.
Yeah, because now she's in a situation where, one, Judge Benner is her boss. She was super duper straight up and forward and throwing her jabs at somebody who's her boss. And now we're seeing, you know, in the tease for next week that she may be having her step down to a what is it, appraisal court or something?
Arraignment court. Arraignment court.
So do you think it's fair because Judge Benner put Lola in the situation for her to take her anger out on her for doing what she asked her to do, honestly?
I think that article that you brought up, Zuri, really sheds light on this issue for me because it does make me wonder. So you're going to send your worker out to do this work and then get mad at them because they found out what you knew they were going to find out. I feel insulted on Lola's behalf. I think this is really disrespectful to me.
I feel like they're setting. I'll say this for predictions, but I'm not sure what's happening with Judge Benner. And I feel like this show, like I said, they do a really good job of incorporating workplace issues into the episodes. So maybe there's something that we're missing here that, you know, Judge Benner is doing to Lola that Lola may eventually like stand up, or you know, maybe there's an underlying like social issue that it's going over all of our heads at this point.
That's true. And she's the only black judge there. So I feel like that already looks bad. That could be what's happening. This is a setup for another issue later.
Yeah, and Mo said it in the live chat. He said it was a no-win situation for Lola. I feel like no matter how the cookie crumbled with everything with Judge Benner, unless she had a squeaky clean image, which she wouldn't need to dig anyway, she kind of left Lola in a situation where it's a no-win situation where either now Judge Benner's mad or somebody else is mad or Lola feels weird, and it's just a total mess. So
Indeed.
Anywho, let's talk about Mark. So he had a case today with someone named Teflon Mitch, who is a known thief, but for some reason everybody still loves him because he gives cute little stories about banana clothes on the stand. And somehow, by him saying he visited a diner in LA, Mark remembers a case from 8 years ago and was like, he's got to be the killer because there is a matchbox from that restaurant that was on the scene, and he could be the only person in LA who could go to that diner and have a matchbox. I mean, he ended up being right, as we know of so far, but how do y'all feel about the fact that Mark was able to take something so small and it go from that to, you know, people wrongfully being in jail to this guy being a murderer? Like, it just felt like it went from 0 to 100 for me. But what do you guys think?
I don't understand why he dropped the charges, the charges that we were facing today. He could have still pressed or continued the case and still gotten him for the murder. I don't understand that decision.
This decision felt more dramatic.
Yeah, it really did feel like he was showboating, and I thought it was a bit unnecessary. I understand you don't want it to get held up in the system, so you want to take more drastic measures. But I mean, I get it. It's a very unique diner name, and this seems to be the guy's MO. He likes to apparently steal from rich people. But, yeah, I don't know if that was Mark's wisest move, but I understand why he did it.
I feel like from what we know about the case 8 years ago that there wasn't much. So I don't know that if I personally would have remembered right then and there, but I feel like if there's a murder and you really only have 4 pieces of evidence and you already felt bad about it, which the court reporter kind of, you know, highlighted that he already had an inkling that this wasn't the guy, but he just went with it. I mean, I see Mark kind of like getting it. I think it would have made more sense had he been like sleeping and then like, you know, popped up like, oh, revelation. But yeah.
Because like he's a lawyer and he sees cases all the time, so to hear one name and automatically know that piece of evidence from that case 8 years ago, I mean, hey, if you have good memory like that, I don't know if I could.
It could be the case that haunts him.
Yeah.
Because he felt, obviously, he knew that they convicted the wrong guy. So it could have been one of those cases that just really stuck with him, and he remembered all the evidence. Specifically, he brought up that was the evidence they dismissed, like they didn't count. So I think maybe if the case was still on his mind, and clearly it was, I would think that it would jog his memory. Yeah. Maybe not immediately in that moment.
As I said, when you were sleeping, you know, in the shower.
Maybe that's the whole theme for this episode, because now talking about it kind of sounds like with Judge Benner, even though they didn't do the same thing, they have this thing that they felt guilty about and they reacted in a way to fix it. Felt like the intention was good to fix it, but then kind of making the situation worse. With Judge Benner, you know, even though they were bad guys, it dismantled a whole company, and, you know, she put herself in a position to get disbarred. And then with Mark, you know, it seemed like he did the right thing, but he ended up going against what Lola told him to do, what his boss told him to do. He got the clerk in trouble. So with all that being said, do you think he made the right decision with what he did?
Oh, that's like a tough question, because going back to your conscience, I don't know that I would be able to, you know, rest knowing that I put someone away for good, but also being benched, and with Choi, who doesn't think they have a very good relationship in the first place. That doesn't seem like a good idea either. So I think that there could have been another way that Mark went about it. I certainly would have had him handcuffed in the court. Like, that was a bit much, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he would have taken some time to really think about the best way to go about it, he could have come up with something that still goes around the system but wasn't quite as ridiculous. But I also think it was a teachable moment, like we heard from Sam. if you feel something isn't right, to go with your gut early on. Don't wait. Don't hold on to it. Don't try and fix it or cover it up later. So that's what I took from it, is just, this is a lesson for everybody.
Yeah.
Reminder.
Got you. All right, so let's get into our special segment, our dumb criminals.
No, weird court cases.
Weird court cases.
I was
There we
like,
go.
she renamed it.
I was like, one of my other shows, it's Dumb Criminals. That's what it is. I deal with a lot of criminals on AfterBuzz for some reason.
I gotta hear that special segment. It sounds interesting. But today's weird court case involves Google Maps. Personally, I'm a Waze user, but I've used pretty much every type of app out there, and they all get pretty frustrating, especially when they give you incorrect directions. So in 2010 in Park City, Utah, Lauren Rosenberg sued Google Maps because the directions that she was given instructed her to go, and she's walking, by the way, this isn't driving. She's walking and instructed her to go onto a busy highway that has no pedestrian walkway. She followed the directions exactly, and she got hit by a car. So she sued Google and Patrick Harwood, who was the driver of the vehicle that hit her. Her lawyers claim that Google was liable because it didn't warn her that the route was unsafe to walk on, and the site actually does do that if you go on your browser. However, she was using it on her BlackBerry, if you guys remember that way back then.
I didn't even know you could do that on a BlackBerry.
I didn't know that either, but apparently in 2010 you could.
Wow.
So she was using Google Maps on her BlackBerry, which does not show the warning. She sued Google for over $100,000, and at the end of it, the court said that Google didn't owe her any duty because it didn't have a direct legal relationship with her. So while I understand her frustration, I have had driving directions try and get us to go off of a bridge. I've had some really crazy incidents, but to go ahead and do it anyway, it was just kind of like, what did you expect to happen? In a way? Interesting. What do you guys think about it?
I think that is very different case, but also in Utah, like, I don't know what her options were. Like, if she could have been being asked, like, if she didn't get on the freeway, was she going to be walking through a swamp? Like, was it going to be a farm? So I think that, that should be taken into account. Not that it was the best idea to go onto the freeway. Like, I think she really must have had to weigh her options.
It's Park City, though. I'm sure they had some paved roads. I mean, it's a pretty big city. They have Sundance there. So I think she may have had at least some public transit options. But
honestly, I thought you were going to say that they settled and they gave her some money. I actually am surprised that she got nothing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very bold for her to at least try. So clap it up, A, for effort.
This is the most sensible one we've gotten so far.
Yeah, I was thinking, maybe I should do that next time. That Google sends me somewhere crazy, because they sure do.
They sure do. I understand her frustration. I wouldn't have sued, but I've definitely been like, you know what? I'm going to just take my chances and figure it out on my own before. So, but yes, that is tonight's weird court case.
Thank you, Princess. Let's get into the news and gossip.
Hi, guys. So for today's news and gossip, as we all know, or if you don't know, yesterday was International Women's Day.
Woo!
So clap it up for majority of our cast here on All Rise is women. We have the beautiful Jessica Camacho, Lindsay Mendoza, Cheryl Hellenberger, and we also have Simone Missick and Cheryl Dunier. So I saw this picture on Marge's Instagram. I'm like, oh, who's this woman? I click on her profile, and it turns out her name is Cheryl Dunier, and she was actually the director for episode 9. Oh. And there was also a Black DP on that episode by the name of Cheryl Martin. So in celebrating National Women's Month, I wanted to also celebrate the amazing women that we have behind the scenes. They don't always get they don't always get much credit, but I think that they deserve it. And she's also directed episodes on Dear White People, The Shy. Yes. I don't want to get it wrong, but she has tons and tons of IMDb credits. And she also has her own movies. So I was like, I think that we should all, dig deep and look into her because she's doing great things out there.
Good. Shout out to Cheryl Dunier and all the women out there. Happy Women's Day. It's Women's Month, I think, too. We got a whole month, y'all. So. All right, let's get into predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
What are we thinking?
I think that Judge Benner is going to be possibly fired, and I think that it's going to come up that this case is going to come back on Lola because she knew the truth. And I think Lola's going to find a way to get out of it, but I think Judge Benner is going to either step down or be fired.
I agree. I think somehow or another Judge Benner is going to go away, even if it comes to some sort of, not discrimination, but some sort of, it's not discrimination, but it's when you choose someone specifically to target, but you're not picking on them, but you're like
profiling them.
No, I learned about it at work in a class. But anyway, I think that is going to become an issue because she keeps picking on Lola and asking her to do these things for her as if she's kind of an assistant, and she's not doing that with the other judges. And I think that could be questioned.
It's a form of bullying.
It's a form of bullying. There was another word I was trying to go for, but I think that could be problematic, and I don't know if Lola will raise it or if one of the other judges will.
Yeah.
Sherry.
It could be Sherry. It could be a number of people.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do think that the fact that it's Lola specifically, and like I said, there's no other judges of color that we've seen, I think, yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how much longer Benner is going to last.
That's good. That actually wasn't my prediction, but now it is. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with Benner, but I think all of this picking on Lola it's got to come to an end at some point. So I think it's going to take her, having Lola step down to this different type of court and just doing even more things to kind of nitpick with her for Lola to kind of be like, okay, look, you trying me now, so I'm going to have to put my judge hat on and get you out of here. You would think she would be walking on eggshells with Lola because she knows the truth about her. But I guess because she knows that it can mess up Lola too, now she's kind of like picking with her about it. I don't think
now
that's
she's
right.
entangled in her web.
Yeah.
She's got her where she wants her.
Yeah.
She has some dirt on her.
Which kind of makes me feel like that was the whole thing from the beginning.
Right, so it's like I think that there was something that was like we were missing with this relationship, but now I think we put it all together today.
Yeah. Well, I hope whatever it is that Judge Benner goes down because I don't like her anymore.
No, we do not.
Yes. All right, guys. Let the world know where they can find you.
You guys can find me on all social media sites at Zuri Shalise.
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at PrincessCTV.
Awesome. And you guys can find me on all social media at I am Lexi Fierce. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.